Japan began releasing the second batch of stored water from the destroyed Fukushima nuclear power plant over the next few weeks, discharging up to 7,800 tons. Consumer prices at home rose 3.7% in September, a level much higher than that seen over the past few months. The rise was fueled by higher prices for oil and agricultural items affected by the extreme weather. Team Korea won a bronze against Indonesia in the women's compound archery team event, and the Korean baseball squad beat Japan, hoping to advance to the final. It's October 5th, 2023. This is News Center. Good evening. Thank you for joining us. I'm Yoon Min. This morning, Japan began releasing the second batch of stored water from the destroyed Fukushima nuclear power plant. Over the next few weeks, a total of 7,800 tons will be poured into the Pacific Ocean. The South Korean authorities say they will make sure this does not affect the health and safety of the people amid public concerns. Our foreign affairs correspondent Pae Eun-ji begins our coverage.
Japan has begun to discharge a second batch of wastewater from the Fukushima nuclear power plant into the sea. Just like the first batch that was released from August 24th to September 11th, a total of about 7,800 tons of water will be heading into the Pacific Ocean. The process will take 17 days until October 23rd, meaning around 460 tons a day will be released. The South Korean government confirmed at a press briefing that the plant operator began the process on Thursday morning.
The Tokyo Electric Power Company started to release the second batch of water at 10:30 a.m., and our inspection team is also currently monitoring related data. As I have said before, our government will do its best to make sure that it does not affect the health or safety of Koreans.
But despite government reassurances, civic groups in South Korea rallied outside the Japanese embassy in Seoul on Thursday, holding up signs that read, "Stop ocean dumping." The protesters urged Japan to immediately halt the release process, saying samples of the second batch of wastewater contained a small amount of radioactive material, such as cesium. They said this shows that the ALP system cannot remove radioactive material from the wastewater completely, and that they cannot trust the Japanese government that's been saying the water is safe. Meanwhile, a Chinese local news outlet also strongly criticized Japan's latest move. Citing Einar Tangen, a senior fellow at a Beijing-based think tank, the Global Times on Thursday called Japan a rogue nation, saying that it was releasing nuclear garbage without addressing concerns from its neighbors or its people. This comes as Japan was hit hard by China's decision to drastically cut Japanese seafood imports. In August, when Japan began the first release, imports fell by around 70% compared to the same month a year earlier. Despite concerns, Japan plans to discharge about 2% of the wastewater stored in the Fukushima power plant by March next year. A total of 1.34 million tons of water, enough to fill 500 Olympic-sized swimming pools, will be discharged over the next 30 years. This means Japan will have to release a larger amount of water starting next year. Pae Eun-ji, Arirang News.
High-ranking officials from South Korea and Japan sat down today in Seoul to cover a wide range of issues, from bilateral ties to North Korea's provocation. It's the first meeting of its kind in 9 years, as clear signs of some improvement in the bilateral relationship. Choi Min-jung reports.
South Korea and Japan held vice-ministerial talks on Thursday in Seoul as a follow-up to a historic leaders' summit held in March. Seoul's first Vice Foreign Minister Jang Ho-jin and his Japanese counterpart Masataka Okano met at South Korea's Foreign Ministry, where they held a strategic dialogue. Talks had been halted since 2014 due to deteriorating relations.
This strategic dialogue, which resumed for the first time in 9 years, involved in-depth discussions on a wide range of areas such as bilateral relations, as well as regional and global issues.
A foreign ministry official said that the two sides addressed North Korea issues as well, as the situation on the Korean peninsula is a matter of common interest. They also added that the vice minister strongly condemned North Korea's continued nuclear and missile provocations. Seoul and Tokyo also reportedly agreed to a united response based on close cooperation with the United States. The foreign ministry spokesperson also noted that diplomacy and meetings between the two countries have been restored and are becoming more active at bilateral and multilateral levels. South Korea and Japan's soured relations improved again after Seoul earlier this year came up with a solution to compensate the Korean victims of Japan's wartime forced labor on its own. Thursday's meeting is expected to provide an opportunity to discuss ways to deepen Seoul-Tokyo cooperation.
This vice-ministerial strategic dialogue is part of close communication between South Korea and Japan. We expect that close cooperation on issues of common interest will be strengthened further based on these talks.
Okano also met with Seoul's Foreign Minister Park Jin following the meeting with his South Korean counterpart in the morning, possibly holding further talks on bilateral relations. Choi Min-jang, Arirang News.
High prices of oil and groceries have pushed up consumer prices in September to the highest level in 5 months, prompting the authorities to come up with means to tame inflation. Park Go-no explains.
Consumer prices in South Korea saw their biggest jump in 5 months in September. According to Statistics Korea on Thursday, the Consumer Price Index, a key gauge of inflation, rose 3.7% year-on-year last month, mainly due to high prices for oil and agricultural products. The cost of petroleum products had dropped almost 26% on-year in July, but rising oil prices in recent months pushed the on-year drop to 4.9% in September, significantly affecting inflation. Prices of agricultural products rose 7.2% on-year last month. Among them, fruit, especially apples and peaches, saw the biggest on-year rises since October 2022. This was caused by poor weather during summer, leading to smaller yields and less fruit being exported. The CPI has been plunging since January this year, when the index was 5.2%, the highest in 2023, dropping as low as 2.3% in July. It rose to 3.4% in August, and again in September to 3.7%. Core inflation, excluding volatile food and energy price changes, also jumped 3.3% on-year in September. At an emergency economy meeting in Seoul on Thursday, Finance Minister Chu Kyung-ho said that inflation will ease as seasonal factors, such as heat and heavy rain, are no longer a concern.
Along with slowing service sector prices, which are usually a major factor for inflation, and core inflation remaining at the 3% level, inflation is expected to stabilize from October.
He added that the ministry will do its very best to stabilize inflation amid uncertainties.
But as price uncertainty remains due to factors such as the recent volatility of oil costs, the government will remain on alert to try to address rising prices through all means.
Park Go-no, Arirang News.
Inflation in South Korea, which had been showing signs of cooling down since the beginning of this year, is once again on the rise. Higher food and global oil prices are cited as major factors, as we just saw. Let's talk more about this issue. We have our economics correspondent Shin Ha-young in the studio. Welcome, Ha-young.
Great to be back, Jung-min. Well, today I would like to first start by asking how often you drink milk.
I think I buy a liter a week.
Yeah, so well then in that case, rising milk prices could be burdensome for frequent buyers like you, Jung-min, because starting in October, the Korea Dairy Committee raised the price of raw milk or pasteurized milk by 88 Korean won or 8.8% to 1,084 won, which is about 80 US cents per liter. And this is the steepest increase since 2013, when the country introduced its unique system of determining raw milk prices based on production costs rather than supply and demand to protect dairy farmers and facilitate better price negotiations. And following the increase in raw milk prices, South Korea's major dairy companies have raised their prices for a liter of milk by around 3 to 6% to almost 3,000 won or just over $2. And businesses like bakeries and cafes that heavily rely on milk as the primary ingredient for their products are expected to be hit hard by the extra cost. And consumers too will be hit hard by rising milk prices, with skyrocketing shopping cart prices already putting a dent in their wallets. Now, let's take a listen to what some consumers had to say.
As I get older, I find myself drinking about a glass of milk a day, so I tend to choose buy one, get one free deals. The cost of dining out has increased to over 10,000 Korean won per meal. I wonder how young people are managing their budgets.
It seems like the prices of meat and seafood have really gone up. Not only that, but it also seems like manufactured goods have climbed as well. There were things that used to be relatively affordable in the past, but now rising prices made me hesitate to buy them.
In fact, while I was visiting the grocery store yesterday to check consumers' thoughts on the rising prices, government officials just happened to be there reviewing prices. And during the visit, a request was made to retailers to increase discounts and bundle sales for milk to minimize their burden on consumers.
Then Hyung, what else got hit with a high price hike? I bet it's not just about milk.
You're right, Jungmin. Global sugar prices have hit a 12-year high, hinting at increase processed food prices for the rest of this year. And according to the London International Financial Futures and Options Exchange, about a week ago, the price surpassed $720 per ton. And sugar prices have been falling since surpassing $800 in 2011 and remained at around $500 a ton until last year. And this is due to recent severe droughts and abnormal weather conditions, which have been affecting major sugar exporters, particularly India, the world's largest sugar-producing country. And following the tightened oil supply from the OPEC+, rising oil prices is another concerning factor. According to the Korean National Oil Corporation, as of Monday, the average price of gasoline at gas stations nationwide has increased for 12 consecutive weeks. And transportation fares are another area that will see a price increase. Starting this Saturday, subway fares in the capital region will be hiked for the first time in 8 years. The Seoul Metropolitan Government announced that the basic single-ride subway fare for an adult will be set at 1,400 won, about $1, so roughly 10 cents higher than before.
Will it be difficult to see inflation cool down this year? Last month, consumer prices have also risen back up to well over 3% as we just saw.
You're right. As we've just seen in our colleague Park Gun-hoon's report, South Korea's on-year consumer prices accelerated by 3.7% last month, the highest in 5 months. The inflation rate slowed during the first half of this year, reaching as low as 2.3% in July. But in the following 2 months, the increase expanded consecutively due to higher oil costs and rising prices for some farm goods. And one expert I spoke to also pointed out the base effect as a factor. This is because the inflation rate had been gradually cooling down due to the base effect, as the inflation rates last year were high. But now the base effect seems to be diminishing. The real inflation rate is becoming apparent. And he also emphasized easing inflation expectations as a measure for the government to control inflation. Take a listen.
If everyone starts expecting prices to keep going up, it tends to trigger a continuous rise. So easing inflation expectations is crucial. That means the government needs to demonstrate its commitment to price stability, securing trust from the public regarding the matter.
Earlier this week, Seoul's top office said the Yoon administration will focus on improving the cost of living and continue to manage price levels in the fourth quarter of this year. So I guess we'll have to wait and see what specific measures will be announced during the upcoming emergency meeting on economic affairs and livelihoods chaired by President Yoon.
All right, thanks for that, Hyung. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
In celebration of World Korean Day today, President Yoon vows to look after all Koreans around the world, especially with the newly launched Overseas Korean Agency. On Thursday, at a hotel in Seoul, the president hosted a lunch for 350 people from the overseas Korean community. He said he'll make sure to strengthen South Korea's global networks to widen the playing field for Korean companies, Korean people, and the 7.5 million overseas Koreans. He also showed gratitude to them, saying it was tough for Korean immigrants in the early days, but they wrote history in immigration and the economy and were there for the nation during some of its toughest times. Meanwhile, Byung-jae Kim, co-chairman of the Korean American Association, thanked the government for launching the Overseas Koreans agencies and said the communities will support Busan's bid to host World Expo 2030. Turning now to the situation in Ukraine, it has been reported that Russia has withdrawn powerful vessels from the main naval base on the Crimean Peninsula, where the Black Sea Fleet's main base is located. As our Yoon reports, this will likely come as a huge boost to Ukraine and a blow to Russia.
Russia has pulled a large number of its Black Sea fleet from the Crimean region for better protection, indicating that this is the result of increased Ukraine missile and drone attacks, severely damaging Russian vessels and the headquarters of the Black Sea Fleet. According to a Wall Street Journal report on Wednesday local time, citing Western officials and satellite imagery verified by naval experts, Russia has withdrawn powerful vessels from Sevastopol and sent them to other ports. The move represents a big setback for Russian President Vladimir Putin, as Crimea has served as the key hub supporting Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. However, according to naval experts, the immediate military impact is somewhat limited since these ships can still launch cruise missiles at civilian infrastructure, like ports and power grids. Ukraine's previous strikes had already disrupted the blockade of Ukrainian ports, denying Russia access to parts of the Black Sea and providing Ukraine with a new route for economically crucial grain shipments. Nonetheless, the withdrawal comes at a good time for Ukraine, as its counteroffensive is progressing slower than anticipated due to heavy losses, and political uncertainties in the U.S. have raised concerns about funding for Kyiv's efforts to expel Russian forces. While the move may represent only a temporary solution to protect against further attacks from Ukraine, the mass relocation of heavy vessels shows the threat of Kyiv's strike capabilities. Yoon, Arirang News.
It was in 1930 that the first edition of the FIFA World Cup was held in Uruguay. And to mark the tournament's 100-year anniversary, the 2030 FIFA World Cup will be hosted by 6 countries in 3 continents for the first time. An Song-jin with the details.
The 2030 Men's Football World Cup will see games played in 6 countries across 3 continents: Africa, Europe, and South America. FIFA announced on Thursday that Spain, Portugal, and Morocco will co-host the tournament, while Uruguay, Argentina, and Paraguay will stage the tournament's 3 opening games to mark 100 years since the first World Cup. Morocco and Portugal will take on hosting duties in the global tournament for the first time, while Spain last hosted in 1982.
With the African Cup of Nations and then the World Cup 2030 in Morocco, the country will prosper and more tourists and national teams from different countries will meet in Morocco.
It has been a discreet, constant, and hard work. It's a work of many months and years. Now we have an important task ahead of us, which is to meet the goals requested by FIFA.
It is the first time the World Cup will have games played across 3 continents. Uruguay especially holds significance in that the country hosted the inaugural World Cup final in 2030. FIFA President Gianni Infantino said the World Cup would unite the world while celebrating together the beautiful game.
In a divided world, FIFA and football are uniting, bringing everyone together, bringing football everywhere.
All 6 host nations automatically qualify for the 48-team tournament. Formal approval is set to be given next year at a meeting of the 211 FIFA member federations. FIFA also opened the bidding to countries wishing to host the World Cup in 2034. An Song-jin, Arirang News.
Now let's move on to the Hangzhou Asian Games. For the latest, our sports reporter Choi Soo-hyung joins us live. Soo-hyung, Team Korea got another medal in archery today. What more and what else can you tell us?
Yes, Jungmin. As you know, archery is one of Korea's strongest sports, and they added another bronze medal today. In the women's compound team event, South Korea defeated Indonesia and claimed the third medal in archery at the Asian Games. The team of So Tae-won, Oh Yoo-hyun, and Cho Soo-ah beat Indonesia by the score of 232 to 229 in the bronze medal match. Korea won gold in this event at the 2014 and 2018 Asian Games, and so many people expected the same to happen this time too, but Korea earlier lost to Chinese Taipei in the semi-finals to drop to the bronze medal contest. Oh Yoo-hyun and Cho Soo-ah picked up their first ever Asian medals, while So Tae-won a second, following a silver in the compound mixed team yesterday. Moving on to baseball, South Korea defeated Japan 2-0, inching them closer to the gold medal match. As three-time defending champions, South Korea secured a place in the super round by finishing second in Group B, with Chinese Taipei leading the group. Tomorrow, South Korea will play against China in the super round, and the top two teams will compete for the gold medal on Saturday. Let's take a look at yesterday's other medals in archery. Korea won in the recurve mixed team event, beating Japan and picking up its first archery gold medal in the Hangzhou Games. The duo of Im Si-hyun and Lee Woo-seok claimed their first Korea Asian gold medals, defeating Japan's Satsuki Noda and Takaharu Furukawa by the score of 6-0. They swept all three sets in the game, earning 2 points per set. Additionally, Im Si-hyun will compete for gold or silver in the women's individual recurve archery final, along with Korea's An San, ensuring at least one more gold and one more silver for Korea on Saturday. Over in athletics, Korea's high jumper Woo Sang-hyuk claimed the silver medal at this Asiad, marking his second consecutive silver in the Asian Games. He faced tough competition from his strong rival Mutas Barsim of Qatar, a three-time world champion and the 2010 and 2014 Asian gold medalist. Woo cleared 2.33 meters on his second attempt, while Barsim managed 2.35 meters. Next in football, South Korea's men's team advanced to the Asian final, seeking their third consecutive gold medal by defeating Uzbekistan 2-1. Stuttgart forward Chung Woo-young scored the first goal just 5 minutes into the first half, but Uzbekistan equalized with a free kick 20 minutes later. Jung later secured the victory with another goal from close range. South Korea will face Japan in the final on Saturday at 9 p.m. Korea time. Let's take a look at the matches scheduled for today. First up, we have basketball. There's an ongoing women's basketball bronze medal match against North Korea, which started at 5 p.m. Additionally, the women's handball team are currently taking in Japan, seeking an 8th gold out of 9 at the Asiad. And 7:30 p.m. Korea time, South Korea face Japan in the women's hockey semi-final. That's it from me. Let's take a look at the medal standings.
As a surge of cold air continues to move into the region, breezy conditions are set to continue. Morning temperatures will stay at 10 degrees Celsius for Seoul, while other regions will see lows dipping into single figures. Readings are forecast to stay below the seasonal average until tomorrow. Along with colder mornings, big contrast in daily temperatures are expected. For Daegwallyeong and Gangwon-do province, wide temperature gaps of 15 degrees will be seen. In the meantime, all coastlines surrounding the peninsula will see gusty offshore winds. Winds will be gusting as fast as 10 to 16 meters per second. This will also be conducive to creating high ocean waves. Also, with lows dropping significantly overnight, frost and ice will be seen again. Keep in mind that frost and freezing conditions could damage crops and other sensitive vegetation. Morning conditions will be chilly for most regions. Seoul will be starting off at 10 degrees Celsius. Partly cloudy skies are in the forecast for most regions. 서울, 대전, and Gwangju will peak at 21 degrees. Busan will be topping out at 23 degrees. The south coast and Jeju Island will see showers this weekend. Starting on Sunday, clear skies will make a return in Seoul. That's all for now, and here are the weather conditions around the world.
That is News Center for tonight. Thank you for watching. A panel session coming up.